Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 414. What's up, everybody? So, tonight on the program, we're going to be discussing more complaints from Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team. Now, again, it's the same old BS, repackaged and with a new bow on it. But they keep bringing the same complaints to the judge. They keep submitting the same complaints over and over, and the result continues to be the same. So I don't know why they would think that this time around it's going to be any different, that the judge is going to acquiesce to any of their requests and do anything that Maxwell or her legal team want the judge or the attorneys for the state to do. And why should they? Maxwell hasn't brought a legitimate argument forward with any of these requests. She doesn't have any sort of legitimate gripe or argument, in my opinion. And it sure seems that way to the court as well. Because if the court thought that there was something amiss here, you would think that they would have already granted her bail. But with all of the circumstances surrounding Ghislaine Maxwell, the case, who she is, what sort of risk she is, if the defense wants to get her out of jail while she awaits her trial, they're going to have to come with serious receipts. They're going to have to come with some seriously backed up documentation. Because short of that, all they're doing is recycling the same arguments over and over again and spinning their wheels in neutral. And we're going to see that again today in the article from the Daily Mail that we're about to read. It's the same stuff over and over with Ghislaine Maxwell, granting more access to the computer, asking for, all sorts of privileges that nobody else in the prison's receiving. But all of a sudden, to her and her legal team, her case is more important than X, Y, or Z's case down the hall? Absolutely not. So the parameters that she has to live by, the rules that she has to live by, are the same rules that everybody else is forced to live under. So no, Ghislaine Maxwell shouldn't be afforded any sort of special privileges. She shouldn't be able to use the computer outside of the allotted time frame provided by the court. There should be no allowances. There should be no, okay, well, maybe this times. That's over and done with. She has the laptop and she has access to the court's computers. That is plenty. Our article tonight is from the Daily Mail, and the headline: Ghislaine Maxwell gripes over prison conditions again, demanding she be granted access to her laptop because the computers inside the jail are very slow. Oh, well, I know it's rough to have to use, the library computer with the Celeron processor from 2007, but you're not on there uploading any videos, are you? You're not on there watching streaming videos, are you, Ghislaine? No, you're looking at PDFs and documents from court. What sort of power should your machine possess? What do you want, one of those wild-ass $5,000 gaming computers? Maybe get one of those in your cell, make you happy. I mean, is she for real with this BS, folks? This article was authored by Daniel Bates. Ghislaine Maxwell has griped about her prison conditions once again in a new court filing, demanded she be granted access to her laptop because the computers at the jail are very slow. I mean, wow. You think the other inmates are having their court-appointed lawyers send these letters over to the judge and to the prosecution? Oh, our computers are too slow. We can't use these. We're going to need a laptop in our room. So why doesn't somebody come and drop us off a MacBook Pro? It's basically what Ghislaine Maxwell is saying here. Meanwhile, these dudes on the main line and the average folks amongst us computer. They're just hoping to get a phone call home to their folks that's uninterrupted, a 5-minute chat with their lady, a 5-minute chat with their kid. Never mind the computer in their cell. Who cares if it's slow? These dudes would be over the moon. But Ghislaine Maxwell, she thinks that because she has all of this money and all of this privilege, that she could just have her lawyers write up all of these briefs and send over all of this documentation with requests and complaints on a regular basis to the court. Meanwhile, how many people are sitting in a jail cell right now, nationwide, who still haven't even seen a judge? The suspected child trafficker and former girlfriend, co-conspirator, general all-around scuzzbag, and you know what else, that's right, bipedal serpent, of Jeffrey Epstein, is being held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, as she awaits trial. Well, if it was up to her, and she had her druthers, she'd be at some posh-ass luxury hotel, living it up, looking down at the rest of us still from the 85th floor, sipping mimosas and bubbly. I think where she's at right now is a much more fitting place for El Serpentino herself. Currently, Maxwell is allowed to use her laptop on weekdays, only to review court material, and must resort to using the computers at the prison on holidays and weekends. Oh, must resort to using the computers at the prison on holidays and weekends. You really got it rough there, don't you, Ghislaine? Meanwhile, you got people all throughout the court system who can't even afford to get themselves the top ramen out of the commissary. You think you got problems, Ghislaine, even behind bars? You should try being poor for a little while. In a recent letter to the federal court obtained by DailyMail.com, attorney Bobby Sternheim pushed back against the restriction, claiming the computers at the facility have made it difficult for Maxwell to view documents and properly prepare her for her defense. I mean, give me a break. How much does she have to read through these documents? Isn't that her lawyer's job to get her prepared for the defense? Shouldn't her lawyer be coming in and sitting down with her and going through line by line and discussing what each one of these counts are, what the evidence is, what this means, what that means? For the money that she's paying, that's the kind of shit I'd be demanding. What, they're just dropping her off there with a Chromebook and saying, here you go, muddle your way through this. Have fun looking through all of this legalese. I highly doubt that's occurring, okay? So I don't understand why they think anyone is over here sweating and worrying that Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't have access to the laptop on weekends and holidays. The filing also claimed prison guards have psychologically and physically abused Maxwell, and that her complaints had been met with reprisals. Oh, let's see. We got to see the evidence of that. Where are the marks of her being beaten? I thought there was a camera on her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week into her cell. Where is she being physically abused by the guards? That's a pretty vague comment, right? Physically abused by the guards? Why don't you get down into the weeds? Which guard was it? Because if that's the case, they should be fired and charged, right? So if you're going to make these bombastic claims, you better back them up with receipts. And that seems to be a big problem for these people and for their surrogates. Everybody wants to have a big fat yap, but nobody wants to show up with any receipts. And that is the calling card for Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, Glenn Dubin, Leon Black, and their 9 supporters on Twitter. 0 receipts. I follow evidence, okay? Not your BS, not your fantasist nonsense, not your LARP, none of that. The evidence trumps all. And if you don't have the receipts and you don't have the evidence, you should probably shut your mouth. Sternheim, who has represented death row inmates in the past, claimed Maxwell has been forced to use utterly inadequate prison computers that allegedly can't read certain files and shut down every 2 hours. So basically, she's using the same computers that I had to use growing up in an inner city school. Yeah, no complaints, Ghislaine. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out the life hacks like the rest of us poor people did. So work on it for 2 hours, let it shut down, then let it reboot. Too difficult for you? I don't even understand the complaint, honestly. Oh, it doesn't read certain files. Yeah, okay, sure. So, here's an idea. Find out what files it does read, Mrs. Sternheim. And then format your files accordingly so that your client can read them. You're being paid enough money to do that, right? Why should that be the people's problem? Why should that be the taxpayers' problem? You figure it out, high-profile lawyer Bobby Sternum. In addition, the power of the central processing unit of the MDC computer is very slow. Uploading videos can take up to a half hour, time that cannot be used to review other documents, the letter stated. So, here's an idea. If that's the case and there's no way to rectify that situation on those machines, then send her videos on the weekdays. Why does she need to have videos on the weekends and the holidays? It's the weekend, Ghislaine. Take a day off from being a serpent. Hard drives provided by the government have been mishandled by MDC staff, dropped on the floor and slammed on a cart, causing them to become degraded and unstable, and to randomly shut down. Do you see what I mean, folks, with the bullshit, nonsense, loopholes, technicalities that they're up to? This is what they do. They're trying to sow some seeds of shadow around here. Oh, Ghislaine was being treated so inappropriately. Oh, my Lord, they dropped the CPU. And it's all just absolute, as my friends across the pond would say, bullocks. All right? All nonsense. BS. Garbage. Ghislaine Maxwell is being afforded privileges that other inmates are never afforded. I don't know one single person who has done federal time who had a laptop in their jail cell, no matter the time frame, no matter what the reasoning was. You had to go and use the computer in the public area like everybody else. But Ghislaine Maxwell and her defense is so important, and she is just such an important person that she gets a laptop in her jail cell. I mean, why not just send her? Does she get Uber Eats? She getting some DoorDash sent to her room too? I mean, while we're at it, somebody get this lady a lettuce wrap. The time, resources, and funds expended on problems caused by the electronic discovery in the computers is unnecessary, wasteful, and frustrating. Yeah, so are all of these stupid filings. All right? Wasteful, frustrating, annoying, and stupid. So, unless you have something new, Bobby Sternheim, then I think that these stupid filings are just going to continue to be mocked by just about everybody. The dispute is the latest complaint about Maxwell's conditions inside the MDC, where attorneys have claimed she has been mistreated. Sternheim wrote that the laptop issue was far from the only problem Maxwell was having inside the prison. Oh, I know. I mean, it's real rough inside prison. It's certainly nothing like a 5-star hotel. It's certainly nothing like hanging out on the French Riviera. Yeah, pretty sure she's having a hard time. And guess what? That's the whole point. Other than calls with family or communication with counsel, Miss Maxwell has no human contact except with guards who wield power over her, overmanage her, and have psychologically and physically abused her, the attorney wrote. And complaints regarding mistreatment by guards have led to reprisals against Miss Maxwell. So are you going to go into detail what these reprisals are? Are you going to go into any detail about what this alleged abuse is? We going to get any of that or nah? You're just going to continue to run your fat yap, put in all of these filings, and just try and be very vague and leave there enough suspicion within the whole entire process so you can lick your lips and slap your chops as you prepare to make more millions during the appeal after your client's convicted. Because guess what, Bobby Sternheim? That's coming. No details about what the nature of the abuse or the reprisals was given, though Maxwell's lawyers have previously complained about her being searched with a flashlight every 2 hours. Wait, I thought it was every 15 minutes. Now it's every 2 hours? Boy, the stories do change, don't they? Physical abuse? Yeah, right. That is not happening. I am very confident in that. Is her life uncomfortable behind bars? Yup. Should it be? Yup. Is she being physically abused? Highly doubt it. Officials from the prison and prosecutors, however, have painted a very different picture and said that Maxwell is getting more access to her laptop and her lawyers than any other prisoner. Any other federal prisoner, Maxwell's getting more access. So please, shut your forked tongue serpent mouth. Prosecutors in a letter said that after complaints from Maxwell's attorneys, lawyers from the U.S. government hand-delivered the laptop to the MDC for the defendant's exclusive use. Oh, well, isn't that nice? I wonder if it was preloaded with Netflix and Hulu, so Ghislaine can catch up on all of her favorite shows. Pre-delivered to her jail cell, and you have the stones to complain. They also said that 13 hours a day, Maxwell gets to review trial materials on a laptop computer and is more time than any other prisoner is allotted. The filing comes a week after Maxwell sought to have the charges against her dropped, claiming the indictment against her was obtained unjustly and doesn't allege crimes specific enough to bring before a jury. No crime specific enough here, Ghislaine. Nothing specific, just a bunch of innuendo, huh? It's amazing to me that these people haven't been charged under the Mann Act yet either. What's prosecution waiting for there? Defense lawyers listed first among 12 separate arguments attacking the indictment that a non-prosecution deal Epstein reached with the federal government a dozen years ago should shield Maxwell from prosecution too. Of course. I mean, named and unnamed, the fantastic non-prosecution agreement handed out by Barry Krischer and the incredibly moronic folks at the Florida State Prosecutorial Office. Well, it's because of them that Ghislaine even has this leg to stand on. It would be nice if the 11th Circuit took out their hacksaw and sawed off this wooden leg as well. The agreement sought to protect Epstein and those around him, but Maxwell was not identified by name in the documents that was signed as Epstein agreed to plead guilty to state charges in Florida that forced him to register as a sex offender afterward. And now it'll come down to a battle of legalese, right? Named and unnamed co-conspirators. So that's a pretty large umbrella for people to claim that they are one of these unnamed co-conspirators under that non-prosecution agreement, right? So Ghislaine is definitely going to look to use that as a shield 100%. And it's up to the prosecution to just destroy that and bury that and use the legal system itself against her as a non-named person in this agreement, to make sure that it doesn't provide her with the shield she's looking for. Lawyers for Epstein had planned to argue that the deal with federal prosecutors in Florida in 2008 protected him against sex trafficking charges lodged against him in July 2019 in New York City. Manhattan federal prosecutors maintained they could proceed against Epstein or those who worked for him regardless. Epstein killed himself, allegedly, at a Manhattan federal lockup a month after his arrest. So again, we're going to see, right? We are going to see. The rubber's about to meet the road. And we're going to see just how strong this non-prosecution agreement is if it's withheld. If it's withheld and they have to work around it, we will see how strong it truly is. But if not, and it is completely done away with by the 11th Circuit Court, then all bets are off, folks. And every single person that was involved in Florida is in serious legal jeopardy. Maxwell's trial is scheduled for July. In a recent bail application, Maxwell revealed that she had set aside $7.67 million to be spent on lawyers out of $22.5 million in assets belonging to herself and her husband. In the event Maxwell's lawyers can't force a dismissal of the charges against her, they also made requests that would reduce the number of charges she faces. Among the more unusual filings was a claim that the indictment should be thrown out because it was obtained from a grand jury seated outside New York City in White Plains, where the lawyers said Black and Hispanic grand jurors would have been underrepresented. It's a ludicrous argument from Ghislaine Maxwell's legal team. An absolutely ludicrous argument. What are you saying? What are you inferring? That the people of Westchester County are not good enough to hear this trial? I don't get it. It's a weird flex by her legal team, and it's definitely a weird filing for sure. They said the coronavirus outbreak was used as an excuse to seat the grand jury. Oh, that's rich. Them saying that somebody else is using the coronavirus outbreak as an excuse. Hello, pot, I'm kettle, you're black. To seat the grand jury outside of New York City when the pandemic was killing thousands of city residents. In a footnote, they wrote, "The fact that Miss Maxwell herself is neither black nor Hispanic does not deprive her of standing to raise this challenge." Look, I get that, right? Again, I'd want to be tried and judged by a jury of my peers. I'd want it to be a very juried as well, the pool. So I understand that, but it's just a ridiculous ask. There's just no point in it. There's no basis for that ask. For them to say that the Westchester County jurors pool is already tainted without providing any evidence of that, it's ludicrous. They said the fact that a Manhattan grand jury convened as early as June 25th showed there was no reason for prosecutors not to wait other than a publicity-driven desire to arrest Miss Maxwell on the anniversary of the Epstein indictment. If that was the case, don't you think there would have been some film crews there to get this all on film? Like when they arrested Roger Stone, don't you think there would have been a bunch of hubbub made up about it, and we'd be there to see it if it was all media-driven? Ridiculous. The lawyers also asked that Maxwell be tried separately on charges that she committed perjury when she testified in a civil case brought by one of Epstein's survivors. They said prosecutors were using those charges improperly as a way to introduce evidence from after the 90s. So, folks, nothing too new here, right? Nothing we didn't know. But more context, more meat on the bone, and just another example of Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team understanding that they can't argue her innocence. So now it's come down to technicalities and loopholes. All right, everybody, that will be all for now. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that by emailing me at Bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box.